All right, I'm gonna let you guys get started. I'm having a little bit of trouble with the stream, but you're all set to go.
Okay, thanks, Pam. It is 5 o'clock. I would like to call to order the April 20th, 2021 meeting of the Sutton Select Board to order. Before we get started, I do have some housework to do. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order regarding the COVID-19 crisis, this meeting of the Sutton Select Board is being held remotely via Zoom. To join the meeting, visit www.zoom.us/join and enter meeting ID 899327981128 and passcode 677903. This meeting will also be broadcast and recorded on local public access stations for Verizon Channel 31 and Charter Spectrum Channel 191, as well as live streamed on the town's YouTube channel when available. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, no person shall address a meeting of the public body without the permission of the chair. Individuals who would like to participate should state their name and address after being recognized by the chair. In an effort to ensure complete transparency to our viewers at home and online, this Zoom chat function will not be available for this evening's meeting. In addition, all motion votes shall be done via roll call. Call to order completed. We will then go to public forum, which is limited to 5 minutes per topic. Discussion or comments about town employees or agency members shall be avoided so as not to violate any individual's rights. Do we have anyone joining us for public forum? There being none, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is approval of the select board minutes from April 6, 2021.
Madam Chairwoman, I move to accept the select board minutes of April 6, 2021 as presented.
Second.
There being a motion and a second, we will vote on that by roll call, starting with David.
David Hall, aye.
Jesse Lemanik, aye.
Jonathan Anderson, aye.
Jeff Bannon, aye.
And Wendy Mead, aye. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, subsection 2 would be the Dudley Gendron, post 414, one-day outside beer, wine, and outdoor music permit for May 15th, 2021. We
Madam
do have
Chairwoman?
Christy joining us tonight. Jim, if you just want to get us started off on the discussion.
Madam Chairwoman, before we begin, I need to recuse myself for this. I am currently serving as commander of the Sons of the American Legion. In the event that Christy is going to speak about tonight is something that I'm involved in. So I'm going to just drop out.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This event is for a fundraiser for May 15th from 8 a.m. till, from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And it's for Iggy Garcia, who's suffering from a cancer diagnosis, and it's a fundraiser for him. There are, obviously, it's a one-day license for beer and wine, outdoors, separate from their indoor private function unit. There are obviously additional COVID restrictions, and I've asked Cheryl Rowinski to sit in on this call because of her knowledge of the COVID guidelines at the state level. So obviously there are issues, limitations on the number of people and how it's all going to work out. So hopefully Chrissy can shed some light on that, but it's up for the board to take action. And they're also requesting an outdoor music permit as well.
Thank you, Jim. Christy, would you like to give us a little more background on the event and what you are hoping to achieve?
Absolutely. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I had problems with my mic before, so please forgive my background. I'm in the back room at work at the moment. So a couple of weeks ago, I had met with Matt Balsito, a couple of the sons, Jesse and Renee, and we had gone over just a basic blueprint on how to hold a fundraiser at the Dudley. Basically, the way this event would go would be the sons would like to set up their tent outside. We would have a completely roped off area for any beer and wine that was to be served outdoors. The actual way of facilitating the beer pouring is, I was actually waiting for this meeting before I brought it up. I'm looking into either just using the kegerators that the Dudley has used in the past for their chicken barbecue, or potentially having a beer truck donated, which would also be part of that designated area. We are, as listed on our flyer that the guys have made up, limited to 150 people per event. We will have food at this event, which would be prepared in the kitchen. Everything would be placed into single serve takeaway boxes so that they could just be delivered to everybody while they were seated. I would have at least 5 bartenders on between the inside and the outside, all of whom are tip certified, to make sure that there's no walk-up stations or anything like that. So if there are any questions, we talked about having a police detail because of a parking across the street. And I was told that that was already a part of the plan to begin with. So if I can answer any questions, ask away.
Okay, thank you, Christy. We'll start with David.
Well, I guess, Madam Chairwoman, with your permission, I would wonder if Cheryl might have any comments.
Oops, Cheryl, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just verifying, Christy, that you're going to have a total of 150 people on site.
At any given time, there would be able to have no more than 150 people. I do have enough volunteers to be counting at the doors. And I would be bar backing, bouncing back and forth, helping everyone out as well, and keeping an eye on the count.
So that's 150 combined in and outside of the on the grounds, correct?
That's what I was told,
Okay,
not including staff.
correct. Okay, and can I ask you how are you going to monitor the number of people that come in? If do you have set times that people can come in with the tickets that you sold?
They have put right on the flyer that it is a maximum of 150 people. So I have another meeting with them tomorrow, actually. We might break the day in half and do 2 colored wristbands. I know they were originally planning to sell 350 tickets. I think that number has since decreased, but I can finalize tomorrow at the meeting. So we might break the day into 2.
Okay, and also, so there's no walk up at any of the bars, correct? You have wait
No
staff
yes.
to take orders for everybody?
Right, which is why I need to have at least 5 or 6 bartenders.
Okay. What's that? So will they be delivering alcohol to the tables? How is that going to be determined?
It would be directly from the pour station outside to the people seated at the tables.
Okay, so what about inside service?
Inside service would be just for the main bartender would be serving the regular lounge guests. And then for the majority of the hall, we would like to use that space basically for raffle baskets. So we would be enforcing the 6 feet apart with masks on inside.
So the bartender would be,
Basically waiters and waitresses.
okay, so I would come up and order a drink from the bartender and he would get me my drink and serve it to me at my table? And he'd
Every
leave the bar?
bartender would have a designated area of tables under the tents so that each bartender could serve just basically like a restaurant style. So there would
Okay,
be no walk up.
So that's outside in the tent. I'm talking inside. Are you going to have your 2 bars on the inside up and running?
We
For
have
mixed
2
drinks?
bars, but with the 150 person limit, I would like to use the back hall strictly for raffles and for the bartenders to serve beer and wine to bring outside, to run outside.
So prep the beer and wine, you're saying, for the orders outside.
To prep the beer and wine.
Okay. So if I wanted a mixed drink, I couldn't order it from the outside, correct?
You can not have liquor outside, and there will be postings on the doors, beer and wine only outside.
Okay, if on the inside, could I order a mixed drink?
If on the inside you can, if you so choose to sit, we have tables that are set up for 6 feet apart, no more than 6 to a table. but I would be keeping a close eye on the numbers because I'd be basically, we have volunteers at the doors as well. So I could always give a report to the volunteers outside, say 15 people inside are inside because they want mixed drinks. And, you know, you guys are at 90 or whatnot.
Okay, so then if I want to come in for a mixed drink, I'd have to sit down.
You have to
And
sit
then
down.
somebody would come and take my order, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, I can't get up and walk out to the outside or walk around inside the hall with it, correct?
Nope.
Okay, all right.
Our goal is to keep everyone seated for the entire duration, except with a stroll through the raffles if they want to enter any raffles.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. On the food, who's going to be preparing the food?
It's my understanding that the Sons volunteers are going to be in the kitchen preparing the food.
The Sons? Okay. Because you have the ladies auxiliary, so I don't know who's doing the food. Run in the kitchen.
As far as the only meeting that I've had, I was told that the Sons would be preparing the food.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions unless anybody else has any questions that I could answer for them.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind sticking around, Cheryl, we'd appreciate it.
Sure.
David?
Yeah, actually, I have a question right off the bat for you, Cheryl, which is,
Yep.
in the early days of this, there were restrictions in restaurants that wouldn't allow you to order alcohol alone, that you had to have food with it. And I don't know if that's still, if that rule kind of still works that way.
It still does. That's correct. So I cannot go in and sit down and get a drink. I have to have food with it.
Which is why we have all of the food portions served in single serve containers, disposable silverware to be delivered to everyone sitting down.
Okay, so you come in, you sit down, you get food,
Yes,
whether you like it or not.
yes. If you want to drink, you get food.
Okay.
Okay. So Christy, tell us if you could, first of all, welcome, thank you for coming. And given your job function, I think the room rater value is pretty high. So despite being in the back, so.
I can't hear you very well.
Okay, I'll try to speak louder.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Can you hear me okay now?
Yep.
So what happens if it rains and your outdoor plans are sort of, do you still plan to have people outside under the tent?
Oh, we do, because the Sons are planning to set up their tents, their large function tents.
Okay. And I think similar to what Cheryl was getting at, one of the concerns I had was just controlling of numbers. So really counting people on the way in and the way out, so you know how many people you have in the building the whole time. Is there a plan for that?
Not really. No, I haven't planned that yet because I've only been to one preliminary meeting on it. I was thinking of possibly having a one direction of flow in and out, but if people are parking across the street and being escorted across the street with a police officer, there's no saying that they would go directly to the tent or sit down inside, or so I just have to work that out with the Sons and the fire chief at our meeting tomorrow.
Well, I think I would ask you to do that. I think that's an important thing for numbers control, to be able to know how many people are in the building, to control the flow in a way that allows you to know that you don't exceed the maximum.
I mean, I have several volunteers and we could be counting all day just to make sure that we don't exceed. But as far as a clear-cut system, I don't have it defined other than having volunteers help me with counting.
Cheryl?
So my concern, I think it's great that you're going to have volunteers counting and everything. So what happens if a large group of 10 people come and you're already at your max of 150? How are you going to allow them in? Are you going to send them back to their cars? What are you going to do?
We would definitely send them back to their cars. We actually spoke about this at the meeting, and because of the 150 maximum, that's why we put it right on the flyer and the poster, that there's only allowed 150 people at a time. So hopefully people would go into this knowing that it's a fundraiser, knowing that we are following the COVID regulations and understanding if we have to have a wait time or even turn people away. It's not ideal for a fundraiser, but all you can do is all you can do right now.
Right, but you're talking about breaking up the event into two subsections or two times, is that correct?
It was an idea that I had to possibly do like 11 to 3:30 with one set of wristbands with the tickets that are sold, and then 3:30 to 8, doing 2 different time blocks or even more than 2. But that's nothing that was decided at the meeting. That's just an idea that I brought up with 1 or 2 people.
Mhm. I just know that there are other events for him planned, which I think is wonderful, but they're putting 2-hour timeframes on them. I don't know if you've been aware of that or not.
No.
Yeah, if I may, that's at Pepe's in Worcester, the Italian restaurant.
You know, keep in mind, this event is still close to a month away. So, you know, they're early in the planning processes that they're got to go through this. So these are all good recommendations for Christy to bring back to the planning group. But I just want to let the board know. And the fact is the regulations may change a month from now.
Absolutely.
The state government may loosen them up at some point.
Yeah, we've only had one preliminary meeting, and this is all theoretical at the moment. That's why I'm bringing it up to you to see any other ideas, suggestions.
And can you fit 150 people outdoors within the regulations, within the COVID restrictions?
I was told that we can.
Okay. I mean, obviously, I think the reality is that outdoors is better from a COVID standpoint. So, you know, I really hope to be able to do this. Certainly, I think we're all concerned about the following the rules. But the big thing that I think I was concerned about is controlling the number of people in the facility. So I guess that's the takeaway I'd have from all this discussion at this point, is to just see if you could devise a way of keeping count. I'd be more comfortable that way. So that's kind of what I have.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
We
So-
will move on. Oh, I'm sorry, Christy.
Just one last thing. If we were to break up the day and go by colored wristbands and limit the stay to 2 hours per block, that could be an idea as well.
Yeah, you know, perhaps I'm just jumping ahead of you, Jonathan. I apologize, but perhaps it would be helpful if you reached out to somebody at Pepe's to see how they have their day planned in 2-hour
Okay.
increments. Jonathan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Christy, for coming for us today. I definitely have some concerns around the complexity of this. There's just a lot of moving pieces, and then there's the alcohol laws that have the purview over, and then you have the added, you know, COVID restrictions, and it's just adding a lot of challenges that you face. And I know you're really early in this process of planning, but as I kind of think about, like, the more simplified you could make it, and it seems to me like, you know, doing certain like seatings in 2-hour blocks, I think makes a lot of sense. That way you can control the numbers, and if someone comes outside of their time frame, it's much easier to ask them to leave than it is when they show up, just to come, you know, without blocks of time. So I just think that just adds some challenges, and especially if you get a lot of volunteers, they may be less likely to say, you know, well, you can't come in, you know. So I just think that would be my recommendation. You know, since you're still in the planning stage, because I think it just simplifies the situation. Because I think, you know, because we're looking at this from the alcohol as well, and I just think this, with the other kind of, with everybody just coming at certain times, I think it's gonna be very hard to manage that and have all these counters, and you know, and I think it's just going to be too complex. So that's just kind of my thinking.
Ideally, it would be perfect if we could wait and have this when the restrictions are eased up.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, Iggy doesn't have time.
yeah, no, I understand that. So I think this is the right thing to do, and doing it now, this is, the time we have. So, it's just very difficult and challenging. So I just think the more you can simplify it, the better.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have pretty much similar concerns as Dave and Jonathan. And Cheryl, thank you for helping out and clarifying a lot of things. One of the things I just want to make sure I'm clear in my mind, though, is the limit as of today is 150 outside, 100 indoors. And for this
Oh,
event,
I don't think so.
It's total.
I think it's 150 for both total.
Total. It's one event.
that's what I want. It's 150 for the property, not 250. Is that correct?
Correct, correct.
Okay. And Christy, there'll be 350 tickets maximum sold for the day?
This is before I found out about the 150 maximum per event, because I was under the impression that the state guideline was 100 inside, 150 outside. So at our preliminary meeting, they talked about selling 350 tickets. If we do the time blocks, we're going to have to sell tickets by order of time block. So it would change the amount, and I can bring this information to them tomorrow.
Okay. And it's 11 to 8 p.m. is a fairly long duration event. And I was wondering, on previous events that you've held there, what the times were from start to finish.
I have never held an event here since I took over in November. Matt Balsito recommended 11 to 8.
Okay. So if you break it up into blocks, that's 4 or 5 blocks that you'd be breaking that up to. Okay. And if you did break it up into blocks, do you just clear that entire group out and have the next group come in? Is that how that would work? Or
We would have to do that. That's why I was considering colored wristbands for people to buy, or I mean, if they wanted to stay as part of the max capacity for the next time block, they could buy 2 wristbands, I suppose, of different colors.
Okay. So it's still, I guess this seems like there's still a lot of moving parts to this.
Yes.
And I did have some initial concern also about, and I don't know if it was Dave or Jonathan or Cheryl that brought it up about, if there's more than 150 on site at one point, what happens to the excess while they wait their turn. And, I might suggest that they drive the 2 miles up the street to maybe attend town meeting, but that's something that you may want to think about.
Can have a banner made.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can move the town meeting down. Jim, just a thought. Okay, I share the same concerns that Dave and Jonathan did. I think it's a great event to hold. I think I'm not really concerned about the permit itself, because there's been a number of events held at the Dudley Gendron over the years and with no issues. So I think the bigger issue is the COVID issue, restrictions, and how that's gonna work and how it's gonna be controlled. So those are my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Jeff. I just have a couple of things, Christy. First, thank you for coming and for helping to organize this. It's very critical, obviously, for him. My biggest first concern is parking. Have you been given authority by the owners of that strip plaza to park over there? I didn't see anything about that in the notes.
As far as I was told, I have not reached out about anything. I believe it might have been either Jesse or Matt, I'm not 100% sure, that brought up the parking of the Sutton Plaza. So again, we were kind of all sent on our own tasks, and we're going to regroup tomorrow. So I could get everything in detail of who was talked to and when, But I know as far as what they told me, their chicken barbecues, they also had a police detail and did a similar thing for overflow.
Okay. To be honest, I'm just a little reticent until somebody knows, because it is private property. So that was one concern, because there's not enough street parking in that area, and I don't want to see people walking along that road. It's a pretty busy road. So that was one question I had. As far as if there's a walkthrough in the large room for raffles, how are you going to count people as they move? I mean, because some people aren't going to go look at the raffles, they're just going to hang out inside. Some people are just going to hang out outside. How? I guess I'm not clear on how you're going to keep track of 150 people.
Like I said, we've got to figure something out, because there's so many entrances and exits and people going directly to the tent. I feel like the best option is to only sell 150 bracelets of a certain color for a certain time block. Whoever shows up, and then flip it and probably do the next time block. I think that's going to be the most efficient way of allowing people in. And that way I won't have to have 7 counters at 7 doors.
Okay.
I think that's going to be the only way we could do it.
And like I mentioned before, with regard to that, I think it might be helpful to reach out to the event coordinator at Pepe's to see how they plan theirs, because theirs, I believe, is for May 2nd. So
Is Pepe's in Sutton?
no, it's in Worcester. It's an Italian restaurant in downtown.
Okay. I just know from town to town, because I work at a bar in Worcester, we have
Okay.
different rules.
Exactly. But I think it'd be interesting to get their input.
Yeah.
So you said we're all set with the police detail?
Yes.
Okay.
I was told the fire department and the police department were on board.
Well, I'm not surprised the fire department. Actually, do you know where you're the manager, what the allowed capacity is per the fire marshal's rules for the area where the bar is?
Our capacity is 66.
66, okay. I guess my only other thought was where the food is already going to be set up for delivery. I'd just like to make sure, again, the people who are inside the brick and mortar building have their food in front of them, not out in the tent.
Right.
Okay. Those are my only questions. And so, moving forward, just everyone keep in mind that they do have another meeting scheduled for tomorrow. So at this point in time, would anyone like to make a motion or any other questions first from anyone? Yes, John, David.
I guess I'm a little unclear here. So, I think there's been a number of questions that have been raised, and it sounds, Christy, like you're still in the process of kind of working through what you need to do. I really kind of like the idea of time segments. I think I would agree with you that probably is an easier way to control your numbers, and maybe helps a little bit with parking, and maybe even helps you rein in the event a little bit hours wise, because maybe you'll find out that sometimes are more popular or less popular. But I guess the question is, are we all comfortable with kind of moving forward with the license, given that there's a lot of uncertainty yet? I mean, we only have one meeting between then and now. And I guess my concern is, without a license, how easy is it for you to even plan the event?
And please forgive me, I'm just being a middleman for a lot of moving parts. Just
Sure.
trying to answer what I do know and what I don't know yet. So forgive me on that if I'm unclear.
So I guess what the question is, from my perspective, David, is without authority tonight to get the day beer and wine license, will one more meeting between now and the event prohibit you from where you don't have that license? Is that going to cause issues for other components of planning the event? I think that was for you, Christy.
So
I'm not sure. I was told that the sooner the better to speak with your board.
Agreed.
Like I said, this is new territory in terms of fundraising and trying to do a good thing. I do think that not having a solid answer is going to definitely affect our planning, because there's a lot of things that need to happen. We have donations that would need to come in. We have a ton of things. So I think if your second meeting is in a couple weeks, then it would bring our planning time down to like a week and a half, which I think would be very inefficient in terms of something of this size.
So Madam Chairman, if I could offer, we could vote, and so that we provide the opportunity for them to sort of finish their planning and get this thing pulled together with the caveat that you know, if it doesn't get there, you know, the event would have to be canceled, I suppose.
That's why my head have been going through the proposed motion that would contain language to that effect. So it would be a restriction in essence on getting the license for the day, provided all of the issues that have been addressed tonight are resolved.
And then we would have to have Christie come back and just talk to us at the meeting prior to the event.
Yeah, just to confirm that those issues that were raised tonight are addressed, the length of time, the parking, the numbers, et cetera.
Jeff and Jonathan, you guys comfortable with something like that?
So would
Sorry,
we put
Madam
like a
Chair.
contingency that that Christie would have to come back at our next meeting to confirm that like our concerns have been addressed?
That's what I'm considering, yes. Jeff?
I think I'm okay with that. Because I think, you know, in 2 weeks, hopefully we'll have more clarity on this situation, but also hopefully we'll have some clarity on the COVID situation, the COVID regulations at that time, so that we'll, you know, have a better idea of what this is going to look like. I guess my question with respect to the permit itself is, I assume then we don't sign the license tonight, but that we wait and we give the approval, but we don't sign the permit until next meeting?
I think that would be most appropriate.
Okay. So, you know, with that being said, on that basis, I'm okay with going forward.
So with those caveats in mind, Jonathan, do you want to make an attempt at phrasing a motion for this evening?
I'm just, so can you repeat? I was just looking for our next scheduled date. So I
May
can add it
4th.
in there. Can you repeat what you just said?
May 4th is our next meeting.
Yeah, May 4th. So are we saying that we're not going to sign it until, but so was it really a license at that point though? Like,
Well, we're going to vote to approve it so that we can sign it if so it kind of basically says that if they can address their concerns, that allows them to go out and actually do the fundraising and move forward with the event, assuming that they are able to address the issues that have been raised. And
You
then
know,
we'll kind of,
if I may too, you know, a couple of you with your history on multiple boards, but Planning Board and Concom approve with list an order of conditions that the license would issue contingent upon those.
I think the signature part is almost perfunctory as long as it's done prior to the event itself.
Correct. So Jonathan, do you need a list of our contingencies, conditions?
yeah,
I'll do my best to try and encapsulate everybody, but please speak up if I miss anything. So keep moving my notes, I apologize. One would be a resolution with regard to the time limit for each group of people who come through. Second would be some form of authorization to use the private property across the street for parking. Third, I think, how you're going to come up with a cohesive plan to track the numbers. Again, is it going to be just 2-hour slots, or are you going to have those volunteers keeping an eye on the raffle area, the bar area, and the tents? Were there any other conditions that I've failed to list?
I'm not sure that if I might, Madam Chair, that on the time limit, has that been decided, or is that?
It has not yet been decided. As of now, it's 11 to 8.
Right, and so are we putting in a condition for the permit that we're requiring a time limit if we list it as a contingency? Or that
If
they're
it
just
was-
going to address the overall?
I think it should be included on the list of conditions to
Okay.
allow the permit, but again, it's a board decision.
Well, I'd
No,
be in favor-
I wasn't so much against it. I was more questioning, you
Sure.
know, what it really meant if we were requiring a time limit, have it broken up into different groups.
I just, from my perspective, and again, it's a board call, but I just think that's the most efficient way of keeping track of how many people you have on site.
I agree with you, although I'd be in favor of not necessarily having to have it that way if they can, you know, if in their planning meetings, they come up with another way that sort of meets the objective.
Mhm.
Not, I guess I'd say it feels to me like we think that would meet the objective. So if they plan toward that, that would,
The
I think
the
that would-
condition could be that the
or something similar to that.
accounting for the number of individuals present, that any plan they present at our May 4th meeting would meet would be dependent upon the approval of the board. So if they come up with a better plan than every 2 hours or the numbers change because of the governor's restrictions or anything like that, I don't think it has to be a specific condition of 2 hours. I think it has to be some resolution of how they're going to account for everyone who's there.
Does that make sense to you, Christy?
It does.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna list it as a time limit or time block. I'm just gonna say plan, like we need a plan to manage the 150 person limit.
I think that makes sense.
And then authorization for parking, and then a cohesive plan to track numbers while people are on site. Those are the 3 conditions that I have.
Okay, with those conditions being outlined, did you want to attempt to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the request for a special 1-day outside beer and wine license and a 1-day outdoor music permit at the Dudley Jenner Post number 414, located at 156 Boston Road for Sunday, May 15th, 2021, between the hours of 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. with a detailed police officer on site, contingent upon the following items, which will be resolved by our next May 4th meeting, which we request an update. The items are a plan to manage the 150 person limit on, to attend for attendance. Authorization for parking has been granted from the Sutton Square, and then a cohesive plan to track the numbers while people are on site.
Do we have a second?
Second.
There being a motion and a second, we'll take a roll call vote.
Madam Chair, just
Yes, I'm sorry.
one clarification on that. I believe that the motion that Jonathan just made stated the date was Sunday, May 15th, when May 15th is actually Saturday. So I don't know if we want to amend that.
Yes, we will have to amend that.
Oh, yeah.
So would you like to make an amended motion, Jonathan?
Yeah, I'll make an amended motion to change the date from Sunday, May 15th to Saturday, May 15th.
I think
2020.
Robert's rules just rolled over in his grave, but
That's good enough. We got it. I'll second that. How's that?
so with that change, David, your vote?
David Hall, aye.
Jonathan
Jonathan.
Anderson, aye.
Jeff Bannon, aye.
Wendy Mead, aye. So that motion as read by Jonathan has been approved unanimously. And Christy, we hope you can join us at the next meeting.
I will be there. Thank you.
All right, thank
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Christy.
Have a great night.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Cheryl.
Yeah, thanks so
Bye
much, Cheryl. Next, agenda items, subsection 3 is final budget presentation from Jim and from Tim.
You're getting a quick highlight of it right now. Just
To say, how fast do you think we can read?
There you go. Okay. You all set, Deb? All right. All right. We can go to the next slide, Deb. This is obviously the final budget presentation. I've been working with everybody. Tim, even though he's down in Florida right at this moment, but with the unions, with the personnel, everybody's been on the same page. But you know, at the preliminary budget presentation in February, we were essentially balanced. I mean, we were off a few dollars, but in a $35 million budget, you know, $10,000, $20,000 doesn't mean a whole lot. What really made the big change in this budget was our health changes. Changing provider from Fallon to Maya, going from what would have been a 19% increase down to a minus 6% decrease. Those were huge changes, and you know, the unions participated and helped us form that decision. But without the support of Tim Harris and Erin Chinapi, they did a lot of the behind-the-scenes work on that made it possible. So this has been a good process for, I think, the town. I think our 5-year forecast is going to look very positive, assuming town meeting votes for this budget. And we will present that after town meeting. Next slide. So again, town meeting will take place Saturday, May 15th, and at 10 a.m. Now, hopefully the rain tent isn't needed at the Dudley General, because then that means we have rain at town meeting. So the rain date is the following Saturday at 10 a.m. You know, Pam Nichols presented the question, what if it rains on the 22nd? At that point, we will likely go inside the Ramasco gym, and we will prepare with the company that we've hired to place the chairs, deal with the audio visual, everything else that we've paid for. And then the seats will probably be separated by 3 feet, and you know, we'll see how many people we can get in there. I think we can get a pretty good crowd in there. But I guess we'll cross that bridge as we come close to it. We will look obviously at the 10-day, 7-day forecasts, etc. So it will be a busy town meeting. Obviously, you might be a little late to the Dudley General if you're planning on attending that event, but get a late badge if you are planning on that. I'm just next slide, Deb. Again, the town is switching healthcare providers, as I just mentioned. We saved almost 20% with the having Maya come on board. It was a great job by everybody involved, and I'd like to thank everybody. But you know, that's a big reason we're in this position as we are right now. We have decided to increase the school appropriation by $25,000, so their appropriation is now $425,000. The governor added $37,710, so the total appropriation is I don't know, $462 and change. But the House and Senate Ways and Means right now are in discussions, and we are hopeful that they will increase that number. The fact is, the revenues to the state have not fallen off as much as they had anticipated, similar to what happened at the local level. But you know, they are looking at their numbers, and hopefully they increase a little bit. Special education is continuing to be an issue, and we are addressing that with adding money to the SPED stabilization account. BVT had 7 additional students, as this board knows. Norfolk Aggie actually had 4 or 5 students initially file to go there. In the end, it was only 1 additional student that will be going to Norfolk Aggie. So that's a significant savings as well. Next slide, Deb. Hatchery property sale. We've gone through the process, RFP, appraisal, et cetera. And we've awarded, or at least the select board has issued a notice of award to Unified Global Packaging Group for $1,450,000. That's another great story of this town meeting, taking a plot of land that the town bought for a little over $29,000 50 years ago and selling it at a significant profit. I don't know. I'll have to have one of the accountants calculate what that ROI is, but the utility of this property no longer serves any value to this town other than having open space. And I think selling this property, getting the real estate taxes right away from going from nonprofit, town-owned to profit is huge, but also giving additional land and space for development is also a great benefit. Again, we talked about what we will use with these funds. We will create a reserve for appropriation account that we will have some money taken out of that through town meeting vote on an annual basis, probably over a 5-year period of time, or we'll kind of figure that out. And we'll get a lot more road work done as a result. So it's a great project all around. Next slide. We still have the purchase and sale agreement at Waters on Waters Road across the street from Waters Farm. We will use $145,000 in free cash, and we will use $80,000 from the Conservation Commission Land Acquisition Fund that they voted on last year. Again, this will permanently protect that land and provide parking and other land for special events. So it's a great value to not only the town, but also to Waters Farm. We are planning on creating a healthcare stabilization fund with the surplus funds in the FY21 healthcare budget. The board knows that we built up that account, anticipating open enrollment and some other issues. We have a surplus in that account, and rather than having that surplus go to free cash, we would rather create a healthcare stabilization fund at Maytown meeting and provide another buffer for healthcare in the future. Now, I think the next 3 years look fairly predictable with the agreement with Maya. And this provides extra insurance on top of that. If in the 4th year we get a significant increase, town meeting can vote by a 2/3 vote to take some money out of the healthcare stabilization fund and appropriate it to healthcare to help offset a spike in the cost. And we are looking to add $250,000 into the sped stabilization account, as well as an additional $445,000 into the OPEB trust fund. The sped stabilization fund will grow to over $600,000, and the OPEB fund will probably grow to 2.8 million, give or take. So very healthy accounts. We have some additional thoughts on how we'll continue to increase these, but that's the plan as of right now. Next slide. School department, you see the appropriation increase from 400 to 425. We also put an extra 50,000 in the capital plan. They want to convert the computer lab up in the middle school, high school audit library. Now that everybody has Chromebooks, they really don't need a computer lab. But this space would now turn into a robotics lab. They have 3D printers. They're gonna purchase some additional materials, and they have some teachers that are willing to teach this curriculum. This has originally been part of I don't know what they call it. It's a special program that's going on at the school department right now. It's STEM classes. So this kind of expands the STEM classes to involve robotics and 3D imaging printing and getting into the technology background. And again, we're picking up some additional funds in data processing, and that's Dan Durgan and salary and so forth. Okay, we just sped through that pretty quickly. I think I know what was there. One was the enterprise funds. They're the same user fees in the transfer station and the sewer department. No rate increases. Sewer department's doing fairly well. They have close to $1 million in connection fees for additional development of the department, et cetera. One of the last slides was the capital plan. The capital plan has increased. It's now at $1,472,000. You see the school department additional money there. The sewer department is getting some additional motors and equipment for their pump stations. And that's all coming out of the retained earnings account within the sewer department. We will have additional, 900, almost $1 million is funded out of free cash, which still leaves close to 1.5 million carrying over into next fiscal year. So we're in a healthy free cash position, even after using these amounts on the capital plan. And we do have additional new growth that we will appropriate to the capital plan to kind of continue that money down the line and be available for future appropriation. The next slide is really an overall picture of our, we are, in my opinion, in a very healthy financial picture at this point. Stabilization fund is close to $2.7 million. We are not taking any revenue out of that account. Or Tim, are we? We using $50,000 out of that account this year? Or are we going to wait till next?
It's budgeted for 2023 in the projections.
Okay.
50,000.
So we're going to give it one more year to continue to grow. It'll likely be, thanks, Tim, it'll likely be around 2.7 when we do take out the $50,000 in interest, essentially off the 2.7 million. OPEB is growing significantly. It's probably going to grow to 2.8. We will continue to look for ways to increase that account. Again, the real challenge, as I think, special education costs over at the school department, and you'll hear more about that Monday night when the school department does their presentation to the finance committee. It'll be interesting on how they plan to tackle that. And again, we will present a final 5-year projection after town meeting votes to vote this budget. Then we'll take it from there. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Jim. Tim, did you have anything you wanted to add? And please stay available in case anyone has any questions for you.
Thank you. No, I have nothing else to add.
All right. Based on that presentation, David, any comments, questions, concerns?
Certainly. Jim, first of all, thank you very much for the presentation. We all know we've been through this a little bit before today, so this is kind of like a final pass at it. Jim, you also had sent over to us your budget presentation.
Budget message, yeah.
Message, thank you, that's the one. Do you intend to make this available on the town's website for people in advance of the meeting?
Yeah, I like to go through the select board first. As soon as this presentation's over, I will post it all, because the summary budget, the detailed budget, the budget message, and the capital plan are all ready for publication. I've handed some documents to Laura Caruso to put in part of the in the front of the warrant presentation. So yes, that'll all be published online.
Great. Any budget curious folks out in the audience, I would encourage to go look for that. You can look at the numbers in detail, but I think your message encapsulates kind of some big picture stuff and puts it into English instead of numbers, and it's a good way to sort of absorb it, I think. So I'd encourage people to go look for that. Nice message, by the way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just, I overall, my comments are that, and forgive me for this, I guess, but I mean, I am really impressed with where we are right now. When we looked at last year's budgets and the concerns that we had given what was in front of us, I, for one, was pretty worried about what the financial prospects for the next year looked like. And certainly you and Tim sort of retrenched and took a very conservative approach to last year. And for a number of reasons, I think we fared pretty well. And then to see what this budget looks like in light of what we've been through, I mean, it's just tremendous, the position that we're in, given the challenges that we faced in the last 18 months. So, kudos to you two for sure, certainly to the school committee for the effort that they put in, really to everybody, and, a little bit to this board, I think, for encouraging a conservative approach, even more so than normal, to last year's budget. So it's worked out pretty well. I think the town should be happy with where we are. And, we're never short of challenges. There's always places to go from here, but I'm quite pleased with the results that we have in front of us and with the budget that's presented. So thank you for that. The only other question / comment I think I have is just related to the capital budget, and really for a message for the town. I think the capital budget, if you were to compare it to previous years, looks like a big number. But I just remind people that's really about what I just talked about. We really pared back what we were doing in the past. And so you're seeing a little bit of catch-up work in this year's capital budget. So, but because of that, there's really all the funding necessary to pay for it, and it's doing all the things that we think it should be doing. So beyond that, I don't know how a robotics lab in a library works, but I'm sure they'll work that out. But I just want to say congratulations and thank you to everybody. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, David. Jesse.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Not meaning to echo my colleague Dave, but again, his last point in particular, this is a year-long effort that, is always top priority in town hall. They're always not just looking about today, they're always trying to look ahead. People who watch our meetings know that, annually Jim gives us long-range forecasts. So basically between Jim and Tim and the financial team, they're always trying to just kind of keep their finger on the pulse, just to kind of predict. And by having that focus combined with conservative budgeting, think of the storm that we literally just weathered. I remember back when I first got involved in town government, that was, the financial crisis, 2008, 2009, and towns, including Sutton, were just hemorrhaging positions because that was the only way that the town could basically weather the storm in that environment. But, lessons of that time period were learned and applied and have been carried forward. And as Jim said, I don't know if he mentioned it in the presentation, but I know he said it in the budget presentation, is that we made it through all this and we predicted all of the positions. So that just, to me, is just, it speaks volumes to just the foresight that goes into this annual task. Some other comments that I jotted down. We also live within our means. I'm sure every single department has big wish lists, things that they wish they could get. But, time and time again, I know the budget department heads come together, and when they submit items for the capital plan, for instance, again, the need is always the focus. And by having that prioritization, again, it just frees up monies and moving pieces that can be plugged in if for some reason a void appears. And ultimately, I see this as a fulfillment of the public trust. That's why we're all involved in municipal government. We're not here, to become famous or to make, tons of money. It's about serving the public trust. And the fact that we're so honest, we're so prepared and so transparent, hopefully the people in town can be confident in this presentation, because ultimately Jim and Tim and everybody else that's involved is looking out for the folks, everybody in town. So I don't want to sound redundant, but just congratulations. I mean, it was an A+ effort. We made it through COVID financially without any major bumps, and I look forward to see how this is going to move onwards into the next fiscal year. So thank you both.
Thank you.
And hopefully town meeting will be enthusiastic in their support of this budget article when it's presented.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Madam Chairwoman.
Jesse. Jonathan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Jim, for the presentation. I echo what both Jesse and David said. I definitely feel like, especially looking back at this time last year when we were in the midst of, COVID just really getting going, and the concerns around the budget, to see where we are right now is pretty amazing, and I think we're actually in better shape. So I think this is going to just help us propel forward, going forward. I just really have one question. Just in light of the school committee's decision to limit school choice, that it was recommended of 9 new seats, and I just want to know if this, do you foresee any potential budget issues because of that decision, in regards to this year's budget you laid out? Is there any risk that it puts to it?
Over time, it will. It's an annual decision by the school committee that they make, and they decided against accepting school choice. My hope is they reconsider that next year. The reality is class sizes are going down. The number of students that attend Sutton schools has dropped in the time I've been here, from 1,600 now down to 1,200 area, 12 to 1,300. So it's a big drop in population, and I think they can afford to bring in a handful of students. I think they were talking 9 or 10. But that's for a future school committee to address. But I don't think it makes a huge difference for 1 year. But if they eliminate the program, it will make a difference in their budget. Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern for me as well. So I'll definitely keep an eye on that, because I know we were had that in our budget as part of how they were going to offset some of the costs of special education. So being that I don't really see the special education fund that we've set up as something we should tap unless we really have to, and I don't want to see this lack of money coming in, or this opportunity with the school choice to force us to have to tap into that fund. So it's just a concern of mine that I'm keeping an eye on, but I definitely like to see them overturn that decision next year. All right.
Anything else, Jonathan?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with my colleagues on this. I mean, to think of the uncertainty that we were living with last year at this time is, and to see this budget now is, it's really amazing to see a budget that was, I don't remember a budget being essentially balanced this early, and as early as this one was, with really no issues. I know we talked about it a lot today. We've talked about it in the last couple of meetings, is the health insurance, which is key to so much of this budget, but also I'm sure, when Tim shows us his forecast, it's going to prove to be a real big key to, over the next several years. So just can't be overstated, I don't think, what the work you did with the health insurance. Jim, as you talked, I jotted down five things that are associated with this budget that are really long-term moves for the town. And another one that you didn't mention, which I'll mention at the end, we did the healthcare stabilization fund. I think that just builds on the health insurance progress that we made this year. And that's key. The Hatchery Road sale, again, I think that's, the proceeds being used the way we're planning to use them is just I think it's just a smart way to go about business. And I think that has proven to be a wise investment for us. The sped stabilization plan, we're increasing that, the Waters Farm purchase, and then continued funding of the OPEB. So, but the one thing that I think is a big deal, but you mentioned it and you went over it in your budget letter, but not, I don't think tonight, I don't think I heard it, was the sewer project. We finally have some resolution on that at a much more favorable level than we were looking at before, where it's going to essentially paid for by leftover school funds to solve that problem. So that's a big deal as well. So I think I agree with you with your feelings, and I think the rest of the board's feelings in terms of where we are financially right now. I think we're in a really good spot, which again, you look back a year ago, I didn't think I'd be saying that right now. So great work all around.
Thank you, Jeff. I don't want to be redundant, but again, thank you to both of you for your conservative approach. I think that you've served the town well, and I think the residents are going to be quite pleased to see these specific items. I was beyond thrilled to see that there is not any layoffs planned in the school department. So I think that's wonderful. My only concern, and I'll be interested to see the next school committee meeting, is I just want to make sure that sped stabilization fund doesn't become part of the school budget, that they're not too reliant on it. I know at this point it's not, but I'd like to keep a close eye on that, because that's not its intention. So that's just a little concern for me there, but the overall presentation was phenomenal. We can hope for a little bit more money from the state. I know we're all keeping a close eye on that. So we have our fingers crossed, but generally the update is fantastic. Every meeting when we go over these specific items, I'm always afraid something's going to happen before the end of the fiscal year that's going to impact it. But, we're in a really good position. So, kudos to Jim and Tim. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this, as I mentioned earlier, this has been a team effort. This whole year, even with the COVID money that we received $842,000, and without Tim being able to track every dollar and making sure, by the end of December, when we were required to utilize the money, and they've since extended it, but we used it all by the deadline, and that's a great credit to Tim and the ability to see the potential uses of these funds. So it's a team effort, and glad we're here.
Again, thank you both so much. Does anyone have any further questions or comments for either Jim or Tim? No, well, again, just please accept our gratitude for your efforts. Next item on the agenda is item number 4, to approve and sign the Springtown meeting warrant, which we went over at our last meeting.
Yeah, I don't know. We've been through it all in the past. I need to take direction from the board. Do you want me to read through it again? There are no changes from the draft.
Well,
Yeah,
that's what I was going to
need to
suggest if there was, sorry.
No, that's fine. I was going to say, as long as there's no changes, so that the public will be aware of them. I think that our last meeting, their coverage was very comprehensive.
Yeah, the one, we took Article 12, which is the healthcare stabilization account creation and funding. We took the number out because I think we had $100,000 in that article, and not knowing what that ultimate that amount will be in May, we just kind of held back on that. It'll probably be much more than $100,000, but not wanting to, reveal that number until we get close to writing up the motion. The number will be in the motion that's read that night.
Perfect. Anything further? I think that's the only change, correct?
Yeah, and we moved, ultimately we moved the articles around a little bit, and so that after the select board's issues, we go into the Conservation Commission aura, and then we go into the rezoning of Dudley Road and the definitions and so forth. So, we wanted to get the critical stuff done as quickly as possible rather than wait till the end of the meeting and then we start losing people and so forth. So we just want to get the critical stuff done as quickly as we can.
Fantastic. Yeah, before they leave us for the post.
Tough competition.
Absolutely. Just going around the board, does anyone have any questions for Jim on the warrant? David?
No, it's a little more non-financial heavy than we normally would expect for this meeting, but it's just the nature of the way things worked out. And just want to thank Jen again for last meeting for sort of enlightening us on some of those other articles. That's all I have.
Thank you, David. Jesse?
Yeah, the only question that I would have is, do we have the vote tallies from the other boards? Has that been prepared? I know sometimes like planning sends us, Concom sends us, just so we can get a feel of the sense of the board as they presented these articles.
Yes, we have the planning board recommendations. They will be attached to the warrant. And the planning board voted 5-0, 5-0 on all articles.
Okay.
Good to know.
All right, that's my question.
Thank you, Jesse. Jonathan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm all set. I think I'm pretty clear on what we've discussed before.
Okay, Jeffrey?
Just an observation, Jim, there were no citizens petitions on the warrant, which I was kind of surprised after being, a year and a half essentially since we've had a real town meeting. But
yeah, good point.
Yeah, that's it, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have no questions. I just want to remind the board that actual signatures are going to be needed on this item. So if you could swing by Town Hall at your soonest convenience, that would be appreciated. And I don't have any further questions or comments. Thank you to Jen for her coverage at our last meeting. So if we have a motion from the committee.
Madam Chairwoman, if I may, I'd like to make a motion to approve and sign the 2021 Spring Town Meeting warrant as presented.
Second.
There being a motion and a second, we'll begin a roll call vote with David.
David Hall, aye.
Jesse Lemanik, aye.
Jonathan Anderson, aye.
Jeff Bannon, aye.
Wendy Mead, aye. That passes unanimously. And again, just please, if you could swing by and give us your signature. Item number 5 on the agenda is Jim's town manager update.
All right, let me find that here somewhere. Okay, I'll try to go through this quickly. The Green Communities Grant. Last year, we were unable to apply. We tried to, but then there was a technical issue that came up, and ultimately we weren't able to apply last year. So we waited a year, and this year we're applying for $173,289, which is essentially school projects to complete the LED in the Early Learning Center in elementary school. This really completes one area, one building, and we're also doing extra work over in the middle school second floor. We felt that that was the greatest return on investment, and this should provide an annual cost savings to the school department with electricity costs. So we did look, Doreen did a thorough job working with Rise Engineering, making sure that they looked at all the possible cost savings measures. They audited all of our municipal buildings, and they came back with this proposal, and we're going to submit it. Now, the thing is, the state is breaking the funding rounds into the spring and the fall, so we're applying in the spring. We may be deferred till the fall. We'll have to wait and see. We have received close to $1 million in Green Communities funding, so we've been very successful at that. So we'll wait and see what happens, but it is positive. The grant application was sent in, maybe a week ago Friday, so by Doreen, and we appreciate all her efforts. Reopening town hall. This has been a discussion locally here with the department heads and internally. I feel comfortable opening town hall the second week in May. May 10th, I think, is the date. The first week is, taxes are due, and I really don't want to overwhelm the treasurer collector's office, and all of a sudden everybody comes into town hall trying to pay their tax bills. They've been paying the tax bills remotely for a year, 4 separate quarters, and they've done a great job. They've been able to find a way to pay, and I think giving it the second week in May kind of allows for a soft opening, if you will, rather than a first May 3rd when tax bills are due and it's so immediate. So that's my recommendation. Masks will still be required in town hall. Anybody without a mask will be asked to leave or asked to put one on. We'll probably provide for some masks for those people that don't have them, or we'll have to figure that out. But that's our recommendation to the select board. Contributions to OPEB. We have executive session after this meeting. We'll go through the union contracts. Hopefully we are done. But at the same time, police and Teamsters have both agreed to, for all new employees as of July 1, to contribute $5 to OPEB. This was, to me, a significant victory for the town. And I would like to create this policy for all non-union personnel. Anybody not in a union and hired as of July 1 would pay $5 per week into OPEB account. Now, it's a little bit of money out of everybody's check, but ultimately the reward is a lifetime of healthcare benefits when you retire. And that really isn't available in the private sector. So my feeling is town employees should contribute to this cost rather than the town contributing, as we have been, into the OPEB trust account, but have the employees take a personal vested interest in funding this account to make sure that healthcare is there for when they retire and as they get older. So my hope is after the town, and I'm working with town council as to whether we need to have a personnel bylaw change or whether the select board can make this decision. So I am hopeful that we get some direction in the next week or two from town council, and we'll move forward from there. The next step is really going to the school department and school unions and having the school committee take this seriously as a real cost to this town, and find a way for everybody in town hall to contribute a little bit amount towards this ultimate liability that the town carries. Inspection of the MBR tank. We did receive the final report. I can get you a copy if you're interested from Suez Engineering. The report was positive. They think appropriate coating recommendations could extend the life for another 15 to 20 years. As you know, and mentioned earlier, we have money in the middle school, high school building account that we're going to fund this work. We have hired on-site engineering to write up the specifications for the project. It will go out to bid 3039M with the work likely to take place in the month of July. And we've had internal discussions with the school committee or school leadership, Ted, Roger Raymond, et cetera, and everybody's on the same page. So we gotta let you folks know. Andy DeWolf's resignation. Andy DeWolf has resigned from the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission will meet and recommend a replacement. I would like to thank Andy for his contribution and his work on behalf of the town. He did a nice job, and we'll wait to see what their recommendations are on his replacement. The Fire Department Special Services Award, Sutton Fire, along with District 7 Technical Rescue Team and MedStar Sutton ALS, were chosen for Region 2 Special Service Award for their technical rescue on the excavator accident on 77 Leland Hill Road. We all are aware that that happened last September, that the outcome wasn't what we had wanted. But it was an outstanding effort by the fire chief and his leadership of the department and its total. So much thanks and gratitude go out for his efforts, and it's an award well deserved on the chief's part and as well as the entire department and the roles they played. Early voting reimbursement from the state of Massachusetts. The state has reimbursed us $5,509 for the state primary and the state election. There was some concern whether these were an unfunded mandate, but they did reimburse us a significant amount, and we appreciate that. The next item is reduced voting hours for town election. This is just, I wanted to get this thoughts to you folks and hopefully get some direction. The town clerk is recommending reduced hours for the election on May 25th from 12 noon to 6 p.m. There are no contested races, and putting people there at, what is it, 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's kind of a long day for people to, there isn't a big crowd in uncontested elections. So it is a way to save some money and reduce some heartburn on Laura's part, but it is a recommendation for the board to consider. And finally, brush chipping. Another brush chipping day down at the transfer station is this Saturday, or next Saturday, May 1st, from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. That's all I have for updates, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Jim. We'll go around to David, beginning with David.
Thank you. Sorry, I saw Tim tapping out there.
Yeah.
Jim, thank you for the update. Appreciate it. And running through quickly, what can you say about green communities? We've done so well in the past, and certainly Doreen is sort of tireless in her efforts to continue to help us do well. The last time we talked about this, I had the sense that the state was kind of working on allocation of funds, I guess I'll put it that way, since we were sort of early adopters of green communities. It did pretty well.
Yeah.
It'll be curious to see how well we do going forward, but hopefully we'll continue to benefit from this. And in any case, thanks to Doreen for the effort to put us in the position to do well. All things being equal, reopening town hall at this point to me seems fine. As we talked about with the Dudley General application, I think there's changes on the way anyway in terms of restrictions, and my guess is you're not going to have. I like the idea of waiting till after the tax bills are due, and you probably aren't going to have a big run on town hall anyway. So I wouldn't anticipate big crowds, but I think if we can do it, let's open up. So contributions to OPEB, that's a surprisingly big win, I think, to not only get the agreement. That's big in and of itself, and I hope that's a trend that we can continue with the rest of the unions. But what sounds like a small amount at $5, when you multiply that times 52 weeks and the number of employees we have actually, is a contribution. So kudos. I think that's going to work out nicely. I wish Tim had not tapped out because I wanted to ask him if that qualifies for any kind of pre-tax contribution. So I don't suspect it won't, but worth a question.
You tax people.
Sorry. Occupational hazard. Well, it would make a $5 contribution essentially a $3 contribution, so it's not so bad. We've talked about the MBR tank. It's amazing that it's come out this way, but kudos to us for the solution. So again, I think for the most part, people in town, I think, are going to be pretty happy with the way the numbers work out. I know there's a few people along that route that probably were looking for the sewer line, but so be it. I can't pass up this opportunity to thank Andy for his work. Every time we have the chance, of course, we all recognize here that it's the volunteers on all of our boards and commissions that make everything work, and we certainly appreciate the time that he's given us. And we, this sounds funny, but wish him well, and hopefully we'll have somebody soon to replace him. The fire department is interesting to me. That they would have an award for this, I guess I wasn't aware of. And certainly the events of that day were quite a challenge. And although the award recognizes after the fact the efforts that they put in that day, there is no doubt that the reason they were able to do so well is all about the preparation they put in ahead of that day. Hours of specialized training and preparedness for all the unknowns, and this was certainly an unknown and a very difficult technical effort that was made that day. So as you point out, the end result was not a good one, but certainly the work that they did deserves the recognition that they're getting. So good for them. Thanks to the state, I guess, for the funding. As far as reduced hours go, we've done it before. I'm in favor of it for all the reasons that you suggest. I get a little concerned about people that prefer to vote early in the day, but I think at the end, it's a reasonable concession to make for the outcome that we get in a time when there are no contested elections. So I'm in favor of that. And I guess that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. Jesse.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Jim, wonderful update as always. I'll go quick. I got some comments on some of them. First off, Doreen, what can I say about my friend Doreen? Whenever her name comes up in one of our meetings, she's saving us the right kind of green. So thank her, Jim, next time you see her, for her efforts, because she's always looking out for the folks in town. I mean, we've been very lucky in our luck. Yes, it was Mike Chizzy's idea who brought it forward years ago, but it's really been Doreen who's steered the ship through, with your blessing and support, of course. And again, when you think of the totality of the fact that we're close to $1 million in purchasing items that we needed. Again, this is not going out and getting nice new fun toys. This is always replacements aimed at saving money. So it's fantastic. And of course, my fingers are crossed. And just let her know that if we are tapped and selected to go to Boston, I'd definitely join her again, because I traveled with you one year and I've went with her twice, and I love being there to be able to support the town in that capacity. Town hall opening, I think it's long overdue. I'll agree with Dave said. I mean, I understand the concerns of the employees, but we're a year in. I remember when we were first discussing this, a few months back, procedures were established, such as putting chains in the doorway and extra pieces of plexiglass. So I think we have the equipment in place that we can keep everyone in town hall safe. And I think the town would appreciate it. I mean, at the very least, it's symbolic. It's a big statement that, we're on the tail side. So, let's push back towards normal. I'm also eager to resume in-person meetings. Not that I don't mind talking to you all through the TV or at least my computer, but it would be really nice to gather again in person. So hopefully once town hall's open, we can, begin moving in that direction as well. The OPEB, oh geez, talk about thinking out of the box. I mean, this is, I think financially it's the right move. I appreciate the fact that the Teamsters and the police unions were willing to agree to this, because ultimately this is going to ensure long-term financial stability in that fund, which ultimately is going to be a benefit to them once they all retire. So I think it's only fair to ask them to contribute. To Dave's point, $5, it doesn't sound like a lot. $5 over the course of the year is a significant investment, I'm sure. But again, it's going to work in their interest long term. So I think this is a great idea, and it's nice to see that they support it. And again, hopefully the big union will come on side with the smaller unions and be involved in this. As far as the MBR tank, I really would like a chance, once the bid is secured and once the work begins, to have an opportunity to see it with my own eyes. In all my years of the school committee, I never asked Roger to go over and take a look. I mean, I may do so once my summer rolls around, just trying to be nosy Nelly, but truth be told, I want to be able to visualize the work that's taking place, and I'd like to see what goes into lining this, because again, it's a little money, but it's a long-term investment in the school system. So I'd just like to, again, just have the mental visual if possible.
Sure.
Of course, I'll coordinate with you, Jim. Andy, to Dave's point, we're all volunteers. All the people that give the hours and times out of their personal life to work in the interest of the town. So while he'll be missed, thankfully we had him for the years that we did, and thank him for his service. The next one, this one is going to be tough because I was there. I knew the family that was involved. I had a chance to see the team in operation. And I know from talking to Chief Belcito that the scale of this extraction had never been done in the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So even though Chief did organize at Wyman Gordon's, the extraction training ceremony, or rather the practice a few years ago, they'd never moved anything in the environment in which took place. And while I definitely agree that the team deserves an award for the recognition, and I'm sure future teams are going to study this operation, it's still sad at the events. But we're lucky at the fact that Chief Belcito is our fire chief, and all of the members of the Sutton Fire Department give up their Monday nights, week in, week out, to engage in training. So, while obviously we wish the results were better, the fact that they had the means to engage in this effort, just speaks volumes. And also, one other thing I got to reiterate is it wasn't just Sutton Fire. Sutton Police was there, and you had units for the entire District 7 team. So you got to see men, you get to see machines, all with common cause. And it was impressive, to say the least. All right, early voting. Well, I know it's the law, and the money's nice, but I look at it, I know from conversations with Laura rather, that our municipal elections cost us, $6,000 or $7,000 for a normal election. So it would have been nice if we could have received a little more, but I understand we're talking 351 municipalities, and at least they were able to send something our way. But hopefully, if they look to expand early voting or same day registration, that the Beacon Hill really digs deep and considers the impact that it has on the majority of communities, which are like ours, that have a relatively small election team. So just to kind of, take some of the weight off our backs. And as far as the reduced voting, Dave said, we've done it before. I think it's appropriate. Obviously, I feel good, with the fact that it's not contested. But to me, I think, again, that speaks volumes of the point I made earlier. All of the boards work hard, and we're all open, we're all honest, we're all transparent. And while some people may say it's a shame that there's no contested races, I think it's just a reflection of the good work that those people who do volunteer their time give to the town. So I don't see it as a half glass empty. I see it as a glass half full. And brush chipping, I'm sure Pam will spread it on Facebook because I know that's always popular down at the transfer station. I think I've had enough. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Jonathan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Jim, for your report.
Sure.
The green communities, I think it's always good to be buying. We get the money. If we've got over $1 million so far, I think this is a great way to offset our budget and also reduce costs by putting LED lights into our buildings and streets and whatnot. So I think it makes absolute sense to go forward with that. As far as the town hall reopening, I think I'm just excited for this moment in time. We're kind of heading in the right direction, and I'm glad that we're at a point where we can open. Let's see, as far as the OPEB goes, again, I think this is a huge win. I think this makes absolute sense. I think this helps keep the continuity of this fund going. As people who have this perk that municipalities get, where you have healthcare for life. So I think this helps ensure that goes a long way to helping ensure that this will be solvent, going into the future. MBR tank, again, I think this is just a great solution that will buy us, another 10, 15 years. And then who knows what will be able to be done then. But I'm just glad that we came up with another alternative. The cost offset is just so much better, and I think it also have a less impact on the center of town to not have sewer going through. So I just think this is a good option. As far as Andy DeWolf goes, I would just like to thank him for his service. As everybody else has stated here, we all volunteer our time, and sometimes it can be quite long meetings, especially a conservation commission. I remember I was on the planning board, sometimes it'd be in 3-hour meetings. Hopefully that doesn't happen here though. But yeah, so I just really want to thank Andy for his service to the town. Without people like him, we wouldn't be able to have a functioning municipal government. Let's see. Again, this as far as the special service award, no surprise. I mean, obviously this was a very tragic event to my colleagues. This is, but it's no surprise. Like our fire department, with this leadership of Chief Belcito, they do a lot of preparation. It's a very professional fire department, and they put a lot of time and effort. So I just want to congratulate them on just their good work and how they serve our community. It just feels good going to bed at night knowing that we've got such a great fire department. See, as far as the reimbursement from early voting, that was kind of my thinking, is what Jesse said, probably isn't even come close to the full cost of what the early voting costs the town. And I think this was a little bit of a rush from the state to kind of put this into place and didn't really think through the full impacts of it. So if they continue to go down this path into the future, I'd like to see some more thought put into it. And reduce voting hours. I mean, since we've done this before and it's an uncontested race, I think I'm okay with it. I'm a little concerned about people who maybe want to go early to vote. But I think where it goes to 6 p.m., hopefully people can fit that into the end of their day after work. I'm not thrilled about it, but I think it makes sense in the case of the volumes that we get in these type of elections. It doesn't make sense that people sit around. Let's see. I think that's about it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not going to go through and comment on each and every one of them or repeat what's been said. So I'm just going to touch on a few of them. Reopening the town hall, I think that's great. I think delaying it until May 10th will We'll get beyond the tax payment date, which you mentioned. It'll also hopefully give people additional time to be vaccinated. Though, but it does bring up just an overall concern with the COVID situation in town. We continue to be a red community. I know they were just looking at the website last week. There were 30 or so new cases. This is school vacation week. Everyone's away, traveling, coming back. So, I think people need to make an effort to get vaccinated, stay vigilant until you are, just so we don't, we can get past this, it's disappointing that the town week after week continues to be in the so-called red zone. So hopefully that will improve before May 10th, but I'm okay with reopening it. I think it's time, and hopefully that'll go well. The OPEB contributions, it's kind of a surprise. It's good. I guess I'm kind of look forward to town council's input on that. So that's great. And I'll leave that at that. The MBR tanks we've talked about. I don't know of any award that can be more bittersweet than that special service award for the fire department. I mean, they did great work. It's just so sad, the whole situation, and you just feel so bad for the family. You feel bad also for the firefighters and the public safety people that were there and that had to go through that. So it's award. I don't even. You hate to congratulations really isn't the right word, but it's just more recognition that they do great work for us. But it's just so bittersweet. And the reduced voting hours. My concern were also on people that wanted to get out early. But again, this no contested election, so I'm more than okay with noon to 6. So that's what I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Jeff. Again, I don't want to be redundant. I'm sure observers at home know very well now what's in Jim's update. Just with regard to town hall, I think it's great too to be the week before town meeting. So it'll, get a lot of the citizens sort of back on track with utilizing town options. OPEB, if council signs off on it, I think that's fantastic. Thank you to Andy. Done a lot of good work, and again, on volunteer time. And yeah, reduced hours, I think it just makes sense where there's no contested elections. It's unfortunate that there's not. But maybe once we get out of this pandemic that we're in, people will slowly start, wanting to get themselves more involved in the community. So I look forward to that, but those are really the only additional comments I have to everyone else's comments. So as always, Jim, thank you for your update. We will move to item number 6, announcements, select board roundtable, and correspondence. David, do you have anything for the board this evening?
Just one quick thing. I want to give a personal shout out to Dan Chauvin, our animal control officer, for helping me through a little situation. I ended up, believe it or not, with a wood duck in my chimney. And after a couple of phone consultations with him, we made a successful rescue and put him back out into the wild. So just wanted to say thanks.
Only you, David.
It happens.
Okay, Jesse.
Wait, Dave, did you say wood duck or woodchuck?
Wood duck, an actual
Oh,
duck
okay.
was in my chimney.
Okay,
Yeah.
because if it was a woodchuck, I really wanted to know how.
Yeah, that would have been a question. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Madam Chairwoman, I just have the food pantry list. I didn't have a chance to talk to Michelle, but I just want to reiterate the one from our last meeting because I'm sure these goods are still outstanding. Last meeting, they were looking for stewed tomatoes, canned beets, canned spinach, cleaning supplies, paper towels, tissues, canned ham, mayonnaise, rice pilaf, and shampoo. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Jonathan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm all set.
Jeffrey.
Madam Chair, I just had one question that I've been thinking about all night for Jim, and I really haven't had the opportunity to ask him. And that has to do with town meeting. Do we have any issues with the 150 person limit for gatherings?
Town meeting is exempt from the state regulations.
Good. Okay, that's what I have then. Nothing else, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Just my reminder for all the people in our town and surrounding communities to be kind to each other. You never know what someone's going through on a day-to-day basis. And that is the end of item number 6. Item number 7, we will be going into executive session for the sole purpose of adjourning the meeting under the Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, as I do. We take a roll call vote to go into executive session, I believe so. David Hall.
Aye.
Justin Lemanik, aye.
Jonathan Anderson, aye.
Jeff Bannon, aye.
Wendy Mead, aye. So again, we'll, this motion passes and we will go in and come back for the sole purpose of adjourning. So to the community, thank you for joining us tonight.